Canada, the land of opportunity, stunning landscapes, and one of the most desirable places to live. Or is it? What if I told you that the country, known for its quality of life, is now becoming unlivable? How did this happen? Why are families who once thrived here now struggling just to survive? Is there any hope for change? To understand this, we need to go back. Back to a time when life in Canada was the envy of the world. It offered affordable housing, reliable healthcare, and opportunities as vast as its landscapes. But today, everything seems to have changed. Not too long ago, Canada represented a dream. Home ownership was within reach for most families. A single income could afford a home, cover bills, and even allow for vacations. Cities like Toronto and Vancouver weren't just desirable. They were livable, often even rated as some of the world's most livable cities, many years in a row in global rankings. But that dream is fading. Fast forward to today, and the question looms: what went so wrong? How did Canada have such a dramatic fall from grace? I lived in Canada from 2008 to 2009. Back then, the economy felt great. I worked many jobs, from construction to classic Canadian jobs like tree planting and drilling for oil in Alberta. There were plenty of jobs to be done and lots of money to be made. Some of my colleagues at the time even owned their own homes, even though they were in their early 20s at the time. Something that has now become unattainable for most youth in the country. I still remember exploring the vast natural riches of British Columbia and the serene beauty of the Icefields Parkway in the middle of the Rocky Mountains, and snowboarding in Whistler, one of the largest ski resorts on Earth. I went trekking in the beautiful Garibaldi National Park and the coastal route of the Juan de Fuca Trail on Vancouver Island. I visited many music festivals and got to experience some of the best of what Canada had to offer. Today, however, the country has become much more challenging to thrive in than when I visited 15 years ago. Canada wasn't always this unaffordable. In the 1970s and 1980s, home buying was within reach for the average family. Back then, the cost of a house was just 3 to 4 times the median annual income. Today, that affordability feels like a distant memory. But how far have we strayed? Today, the average Canadian home costs 7 to 8 times the median annual income. And if you're dreaming of living in Toronto or Vancouver, brace yourself. There, it's more like 10 to 12 times. Let's put this into perspective. The median annual household income in Canada is about $75,000. But the average home price, over $716,000 nationwide. And that number crosses a staggering $1 million in the most expensive cities. The math doesn't add up for most Canadians. Now, let's zoom out and see how Canada compares globally. In the United States, home prices are about 5 to 6 times the median income. It's not perfect, but it's significantly better than what we're seeing in Canada. So why is Canada's housing market spiraling out of control? One of the culprits: real estate speculation. Housing has become more than a necessity. It's a lucrative investment. Homes are bought and sold as assets, driving prices to levels out of reach for the average Canadian family. Then there's the impact of foreign ownership. In cities like Vancouver, foreign buyers have snapped up properties at an alarming rate, further inflating prices and locking locals out of their housing market. But it's not just demand. It's also supply. Canada hasn't been building enough homes, especially in urban areas. Combine that with population growth and immigration, and you have a recipe for a housing crisis. Here's another twist. For years, record low interest rates made borrowing money cheap, fueling the fire of rising home prices. And even now, the damage has already been done, with rates climbing. So what does all this mean? For many Canadians, home ownership has become a pipe dream. Families are forced to rent indefinitely. Young adults are delaying starting their lives, and the middle class is being squeezed out of major cities. This isn't just about numbers. It's about identity. How did we go from a nation of opportunity to one where basics like owning a home feel unattainable? And more importantly, is there any way to fix it? It's not just about housing. Even as costs soar, wages have barely budged. Today's average Canadian worker earns only slightly more than they did 2 decades ago, once adjusted for inflation. But that small raise feels meaningless, with everything from groceries to gas getting more expensive. What does life look like when your paycheck can't keep up with your bills? Consider this. Canadians now spend more on groceries than ever thanks to inflation and global supply chain issues. A trip to the store that cost $100 a decade ago might now set you back $200. And then there's energy, essential for surviving the harsh winters. Heating bills have surged, leaving families to decide between staying warm and saving money. And don't forget childcare. The cost of raising a family in Canada is among the highest in the world. For many, having children has become a financial impossibility. Is this the Canada we imagine? If you are not from Canada, it is probably not what you imagined life in Canada like right now. So how did it all go so wrong? Canada's cities were once seen as havens of opportunity, but with so many flocking to urban centers, resources are stretched thin. Public transportation is overcrowded, traffic is a nightmare, and housing shortages are worsening. Rural areas are emptying. Cities are bursting at the seams, and the price of real estate in many Canadian cities is shooting through the roof. In cities like Vancouver, people whose families have lived there for generations are getting priced out of their own neighborhoods due to skyrocketing real estate and rental prices. To rent a 3-bedroom apartment in Vancouver can easily set you back $3,500 per month. When this astronomical cost is compared with the average salary in the city, it paints a grim picture. If you want to buy a home and pay off your mortgage, you must earn at least $200,000 to $300,000 annually to qualify for a loan. Why hasn't Canada adapted to this rapid urbanization? And what can be done about this situation? Canada's immigration policies have brought in a wealth of talent and diversity, enriching the nation. However, with this rapidly growing population, infrastructure has yet to keep pace. Schools, hospitals, and public transit systems struggle to meet the demand. It's not immigration itself that's the problem, it's the lack of planning to support this growth. When people shift to a country, they expect one that allows immigration to have adequate housing for the new incoming workforce. It must be baffling for arriving immigrants to realize the state of affairs on the ground, realizing the troubles caused by a political party that gave rise to the most inviting immigration policy. Justin Trudeau changed his footing and reversed his government's policy. He even admitted that the state of affairs was a failure. But why are they only realizing this now? Isn't this something that could have been revealed in a thorough review of the effects of public policy? Sometimes failing to plan means planning to fail. Perhaps the most glaring issue is inequality. While the wealthy thrive, the middle and lower classes are being squeezed out. Billion-dollar condos tower over cities while homelessness surges below. Canada's wealth gap is no longer ignorable. Can a country succeed when so many citizens are struggling? How can Canadians be empowered and put back on their feet again? Amid the challenges, there's hope. Canada has seen some promising initiatives, affordable housing projects, investments in green energy, and even new policies to curb inflation. But is it enough? The question remains, can Canada return to being the land of opportunity it once was, or will it continue down this unsustainable path? The story of Canada isn't over, but the challenges are clear. Rising costs, inequality, and a lack of long-term planning have brought us to this point. The question is, what comes next? Canada was once the place people dreamed of moving to, but unless something changes, that dream could vanish entirely. Some people who migrated to Canada years ago are now returning back home, as the situation in the country has become too expensive and volatile. What kind of Canada do we want to leave for the next generation? Who do you think will win in the upcoming elections in 2025? Will the country see a much-needed turnaround, or will it be more of the same? Can Canada turn things around, or is the unlivable future here to stay? If you are not from Canada, would you consider moving there after hearing all this? If you live in Canada, what is your experience? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you like this video, please support me by subscribing to my channel. You can also share this video with others interested in the direction Canada is really going right now.